We were holding on a siding when my phone lit up. I was the conductor on a freight run that night. We had pulled over to let a coal train pass us. The screen showed 8 missed calls from one number. It was the private investigator I hired 3 weeks before. A man does not call 8 times to say hello. I picked up on the 9th ring. He told me a woman had just shot a man in a parking lot. Then he told me my wife was 2 feet away when it happened. He said the man went down holding his leg. He said the woman who fired was that man's own wife. I was 300 miles from home. I could not do one thing but stand there and listen. The train sat in the dark while he kept talking. My hand was shaking and the radio kept crackling. I want you guys to understand something up front. I did not hire an investigator on some wild hunch. I hired him because the money in my house stopped adding up, and what he found was so much worse than missing money. I run freight for a living. I am 51 years old, and I have run trains for 30. I know the sound of a thing coming off the rails. My marriage was coming off the rails, and I missed it. You can be good at your job and blind at your own door. I am gone 3 and 4 nights a week on the rails. The runs are long, and the layovers are even longer. You sleep in motels and eat out of vending machines. My father passed last spring after a hard year. He had been sick for the better part of a year. I took leave from the railroad to be at his side. I came back to work the week after we buried him. He left me more money than I ever thought I would see. The estate took months of phone calls to settle. I was signing papers in motel rooms between runs. My mind was on probate, not on my marriage at home. My mother is sick now, 2 states from where I live. My mother does not always know who I am now. Some visits, she calls me by my father's name. I sit with her anyway and hold her hand for hours. When I am not on a run, I am driving to sit with her. The home costs me a few $1,000s a month. I pay it out of the account my father left behind. That is what that money was supposed to be for. This past year has been the rails and then the hospital. My wife had the house to herself most of every week. I never once thought twice about that. I trusted her to hold the house down while I grieved. She held it down, all right, just not the way I meant. We had 18 years and 1 grown son between us. My son is off at college in another state now. I handled all the bills, more so after my father died. That is how this whole thing cracked open in the first place. I was paying the credit cards one night on a layover. I saw a motel charge for $212 on the statement. We live 40 minutes from that motel. There was no reason on this earth for that charge. I told myself it was a mix-up, and I let it go. The next month, there were 2 more just like it. Then a dance studio I had never heard her mention. Then cash withdrawals I could not place anywhere. I am not a suspicious man by nature, but I am a man who reads a statement line by line. Those numbers were telling me something I hated. I almost called the bank to dispute the first charge. I am glad now that I never picked up that phone. A dispute would have tipped her off too early. Instead, I started saving every statement to a drive. I wrote down the dates the charges hit each month. They lined up with the nights I was out on the rails. I sat on it for 2 more weeks and just watched. For those weeks, I told nobody what I had found. Not my son, not my buddy, not the man at the next stool. I carried that statement folded in my back pocket. I would take it out on layovers and read it again. The charges did not stop, and they got bolder. So, I did the thing I never pictured myself doing. I called an investigator a buddy of mine swore by. He asked what I was trying to find out. I told him I wanted the truth and all of it. I wired him $7,500 the very next morning. Then I went back to work, and I waited. Here is what that investigator brought me in 3 weeks. My wife was not seeing one man. She was seeing 3 of them. The first was the man who cut our grass. He owned the lawn service that worked our whole street. He was married, 2 young kids. his name on his truck. He came by on the days he knew I was out on a run. The neighbors all thought he was working the yard. He was not working the yard. He was parking that truck and walking inside. The investigator had 12 separate visits logged. 12 times that truck sat there in my driveway past dark. The second man she met on a dating app. On the app man, the investigator pulled the profile. Her photos were on it, but the name was made up. She listed herself as single and looking for fun. That one was single and 10 years younger than me. She met him at the same motel, the same $212 a night that started this whole thing. He matched the motel nights to her car at the lot. He had her plate going in at 8 and out at 1. There was no way to read those photos as anything else. The third man came from a dance class she joined in winter. He was married too, and he was her partner in the class. The lessons themselves were real enough. It was what came after the lessons that was the trouble. On the dance partner, he had weeks of footage. They would leave the studio in separate cars. Then they would meet at the same hotel bar each time. The man had a wedding ring on in every single shot. His wife had no idea where her husband really was. That is 3 households before you even count mine. Each man got his own page in that report. Each page was somehow worse than the one before it. So, there it was, in a folder in my 2 hands, 3 men in 90 days while I buried my father. I read that report twice and felt sick. I kept asking myself how she found the time for it. Then I looked at my work schedule and I understood. I was gone half the month, every month, for years. She did not have to hide much with me that far away. The investigator said she was not even being careful. My father was dying through that whole winter. My mother was already starting to slip away. I was burying one parent and feeding the other soup, and she was running these men like a second job. I did not call her. I did not scream one word into the phone. I want you guys to know that took everything I had. Some folks would have flipped that car over right there. I felt that same pull, standing on that siding later. But anger does not hold up in front of a judge. Paper holds up, and I had a folder full of paper. So, I swallowed the anger and I kept building the file. I told the investigator to keep going and get it all. Document every single day of it, I told him. That one choice is why I can even tell you this story, because 2 weeks later, he was parked at a steakhouse. He was watching my wife sit in a car with the lawn guy. It was 9:23 at night. He had photos. He had video. He had the plate numbers. He was doing his job and writing it all down. Then another car came into that lot fast. A woman got out and left her door hanging open. She was screaming a name across the whole parking lot. It was the lawn guy's wife. She had hired her own investigator weeks before mine. She had followed her husband to that same lot that night. 2 wives, 2 investigators, 1 car in the dark. My guy watched her walk straight up to the window. Her husband got out of the car and they started arguing. He watched her pull a small pistol out of her bag. He heard her fire 1 round at his leg. My investigator said the shot was loud in the lot. People came running out of the steakhouse doors. Somebody was already calling for an ambulance. The lawn guy grabbed his leg and fell on the concrete. My wife came out the far door screaming her head off. My wife was on her knees by the car when help came. The shooter just stood there with the gun at her side. She did not run. She did not even try to leave the lot. She waited right there until the police pulled in. They put her in handcuffs at the scene that night. My investigator handed them his statement and his footage. Then he called me 8 times until I finally answered. That is the call I took on the siding in the dark. A man shot in the leg over my wife. His wife in cuffs over my wife. 2 whole families blown apart in 1 parking lot. And my wife walked away from it without a scratch. The news called it a domestic dispute in a parking lot. They never printed my wife's name, but I knew. The lawn guy spent 2 nights in the hospital. He went home to a house with the locks changed. His wife had filed for divorce from a jail cell. 2 marriages were over before the sun came up. The shooter made bail a few days later. Her trial is still sitting on a docket somewhere. I had to finish my run because that is the job. A conductor cannot just walk off a moving train. I sat with it for 2 days and 300 miles. By the time I got home, I was past the shock of it. I was thinking clear for the first time in months. I did not say a word to her about that parking lot. She did not say a word to me about it either. I think she was waiting to see how much I knew. I moved my things into the spare room that same night. I told her the runs were wrecking my sleep. That part was not even really a lie. But there was a real reason behind that move. A buddy gave me the number of a divorce attorney. I called him from the cab of my truck the next morning. The first thing he asked was what I was after. I told him I wanted out, and I wanted it clean. He told me to stop sleeping in her bed right away. He said Georgia has a rule about that very thing. He said living as her husband now could cost me ground. So, the spare room was never about my sleep at all. It was about protecting the case before I ever filed. My attorney charged a retainer of $5,000 to start. He earned every dollar of it before we were done. Then he told me about the law that changed everything. He said the code section was 19-6-1. He said in Georgia, adultery can bar her alimony outright, not just lower it, bar it if the affair is why the marriage ended. He said 3 documented men was as clear as it gets. Then he told me the part I did not see coming. He asked about the money my father had left me. I told him it sat in an account in just my name. He told me to keep it that way and never mix it in. He said inherited money is separate under Georgia law. If I never combined it, she could not touch a dime. That was $850,000 walled off from her for good. Then he asked the question that turned my stomach. He asked how much of our money went to these men. I told him I would pull every statement and find out. I spent a week of layovers with a calculator and a folder. I went back 18 months in the statements. I built a spreadsheet on my laptop in motel rooms. I labeled the spreadsheet by the name of each man. Column 1 was the long guy. Column 2, the dating app man. Column 3 was the dancer with the wedding ring. I color-coded every charge that did not belong. Motels in one color, cash in another, gifts in a third. By the end, the screen looked like a patchwork quilt, and every square of that quilt was our money. The motel rooms came to $16,800. The dinners and the gifts came to $11,500. The cash she pulled and handed off came to $8,200. The dance studio and the private lessons, $4,800. It all added up to $41,300 of our money. That is $41,300 spread across 3 different men. Every column had a total at the bottom in red. Those 3 red numbers are what built my whole case. All while I was wiring my mother's home every month. My attorney had a name for that kind of spending. He called it marital waste or wasting marital money. He said a judge can charge it against her share. He said we take it off the top before anything is split. I gave him the full report and the police record. The shooting put the long guy on the public record. There was an arrest, a case number, a report with names. My attorney said that one piece was bulletproof. You cannot argue a man was not where his wife shot him. He told me to keep living my normal routine. Go to work, see your mother, say nothing. He said, so that is exactly what I did for 7 months. He filed the petition that same week. She was served at the house by 10 that morning. I was on a run when my phone started going off again. She called me 28 times before noon. I let every single one go to voicemail. When I got home, she was standing at the door. She had one line ready, and she led with it. She said it never meant a thing. Not even one time. I told her the investigator had all of it on video. I told her the police had the rest of it on file. She stopped talking after that. There was nothing left for her to say to me. My son called me the day he heard she was served. He has seen things over the years he never told me. He said he was on my side, and then he went quiet. That call was the hardest part of this whole thing. The case took about 7 months to grind through. She sent me letters through her lawyer for months. She offered to drop the fight if I covered her rent. My attorney told me to say nothing and hold the line. So I held the line, run after run, month after month. She got a lawyer who told her to fight the waste claim. That lawyer gave up the second he saw the statements. The numbers were the numbers. We sat in a small courtroom one morning. Her lawyer tried to call the spending normal. My wife took the stand and tried to explain it. She said the marriage had been empty for years. My attorney did not even raise his voice once. He just put the dates up next to the charges. He handed the judge the motel information from that year. He read the room rate and the dates into the record. He asked her to read the motel total out loud. She could not get the number out of her mouth. He asked the court to picture me wiring the home. He asked them to picture her checking into that motel. The judge wrote something down and did not look up. The judge had heard more than enough by then. He laid the investigator's report out first. He set the bank records down right next to it. He set the police file from the lot down last. The judge read for a long while and made his findings. He found the adultery proven by clear evidence. He barred her alimony under that code section, $0 a month, for the rest of her life. He found the $41,300 was marital waste. He charged every dollar of it against her own half. He ruled my father's money was separate and untouchable. Then he split what was left of the marital estate. She walked out with about 32 cents on the dollar. I walked out with the rest, and the inheritance whole. The whole hearing took less than one morning to finish. 7 months of waiting ended in about 90 minutes. I did not feel like celebrating when it was over. I walked out of that courthouse and called my mother's nurse. I asked her how my mother had slept the night before. That mattered to me more than any number on a page. I want you guys to hear the whole tally on this one. The long guy lived, but he walks with a limp now. His wife is facing a felony that made the local news. His marriage is gone, and his business went down with it. The app man vanished the day he heard the word lawyer. The dance partner's wife found out from the court filing. That is, 2 more marriages cracked in 3 months. My wife got no alimony and a much smaller share. She rents a place on the far side of the county now. And me, I am still out here running freight. I still drive to sit with my mother on my days off. I told her about the divorce, not about the parking lot. Some things a sick woman just does not need to carry. My son flew home for a weekend after it was over. We did not talk much about his mother that visit. We just watched a ball game and let it be quiet. I think he needed to see that I was still standing. People ask me if I feel good about how this landed. I do not feel good about any of it. I feel done. There is a difference, and you learn it the hard way. A woman pulled the trigger and ended 3 marriages. She is the one who blew this whole thing wide open. She just never knew she was doing it for me too. That investigator was the best money I have ever spent. The spare room was the smartest move I ever made. I keep the final decree in a drawer with my father's will. 2 papers from the 2 people who shaped this whole year. One man left me money. One woman taught me to guard it. I think about that more than I ever expected to. My father's money is still sitting right where he left it. It sits in an account with one name on it, and it is mine. Oh, if you are wondering, I asked Tony to keep my name out of my story for my privacy. Thank you, Tony. Whether you know it or not, you are really putting cheaters on notice.